Want me to close the door?
I'm still here.
Okay. Welcome to the Noneillah Talk Show at CNNJ. I'm your host, Naomi Johnson. Today we got my guest is today is Mark Bello. I'm sorry if I pronounce it. He's a judge. I mean, he's an attorney. I'm sorry, and he has a book out. He civil attorney. He has a children book out for social justice. And he does a host of everything. 8 books, I think he has, what I read that he has published. So, like again, I'd like to welcome you, my guest, Mr. Mark.
Hello,
Hello.
hello. There's actually 10, but who
I can't hear you.
there's actually 10 books, but who's counting?
Oh, Tempo. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Excuse me, audience. I'm sorry. I'm trying to
I
hear
can't,
you, but it's
I
a
can't
little.
keep track. I can't keep track anymore. It's all right.
No, I'm saying I cannot really hear you
I
because
don't know why.
the sound is low. Yes. So that's why I come and having problem hearing you. Can you hear me? Yes. Um. So tell me, what made you get into become a judge? Was that what you wanted to do when you was a child?
I'm not a
I mean,
judge.
attorney.
I'm a
I'm an
lawyer.
attorney. Now, what's the
Um,
difference? I would say attorney. What's the difference between a lawyer and attorneys? Is it the same?
there's no difference between a lawyer and an attorney, but there's a big difference between a lawyer and a judge. A
Yeah.
judge a judge judges cases. A lawyer argues them. So
I
there's
know
a big
there's
difference.
a difference. I know there's a difference between a judge. I meant to say attorney and a lawyer.
That's okay. No difference. Zero.
Oh, okay. So I know people use it interchangeably, I guess. So I just wanted.
That
So
is
did you
true.
always want to be a attorney when you was a child?
I always, I wouldn't say always. I always wanted to uh, become a professional, be the best I could be. Let's put it that way. Uh, I I actually tried to become a doctor, and I couldn't handle the advanced science classes. I was too stupid. So
Oh.
so I went to law school. I studied English and social sciences and went to law school instead.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what made you was interested in the practice that you chosen? Social justice, civil, use a
That
civil
that
attorney.
that kind of happened as a function of looking for a job and finding one in that field. Had I found a job in bankruptcy, I probably would have specialized and become a an advocate for people involved in bankruptcy issues, or if I had become a divorce lawyer, people involved in domestic relations. But my first job as a lawyer happened to be in the civil justice arena, and I enjoyed it and was good at it, and ended up practicing in the field.
Oh, okay. Now I know you have a podcast. What I was looking through your podcast, the Justice Podcast.
Justice
That,
counts. It's called
yeah, Justice. I
justice
mean,
counts.
just you're right. I can't. The sound is so low.
I don't know
Um.
why.
um.
How can I
So
fix that?
okay, now I can hear you. You
Okay.
kind of okay. I guess I don't know. It's on my end or your end, but now I can hear it.
Okay. Good.
Now I can hear you real good. I'm like, I hope I'm not having a hearing problem. My hearing's not going. Okay. Now, yes, Justice Countess podcast that you have.
Correct.
Okay. Now, could you tell me a little bit about your podcast? I know you focus on like things that dealing with injustice topics and.
Well, the podcast is typically a legal themed podcast, but justice, if you think about it, or injustice, happens in a lot of different aspects of life. So if somebody has a story about justice or injustice that is unrelated to the law, we'll talk about that too. But typically, we have people on that to discuss uh, cases that they've been involved in either as a citizen or as a lawyer.
Oh, okay. Now, when you talk about, is there really justice in the justice system, or just the thought of justice?
Well, again, mostly in the justice system, but think about it. I mean, if you're applying for a job, are you treated fairly? If you're looking for a place to live, can you live anywhere you want, or does your religion or color get in the way? Uh, there are all kinds of things that happen out there that aren't necessarily injustices in the court system. So we try to touch on injustice wherever it happens, whether it's in or out of court.
Hmm. Okay. I read your book. You have the book called Zachary Blake. Can you tell me?
I have a series of books.
Yes.
Zachary Blake is the lawyer who is the hero, for lack of a better way to say it, in 8 of my novels. He's quite a social justice advocate, works very hard for his clients. The topics that he takes on are ripped from the headlines kind of events uh, that we would all recognize as being events that have happened in America over the last, I would say, 5, 6 years. I try to write books that are relevant to the things that are happening in the news. And
Okay.
Zachary takes those on both in the criminal justice system and in the civil justice system. If you don't understand the difference, I'm happy to explain that too.
Yes, please elaborate. Greatly appreciate it.
Well, I like to use the example of O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was the subject of a criminal trial, the one that he won, and he was found not guilty.
Do you really think it was guilty?
Well, that's not neither that's neither here nor there. My own personal opinion is he was guilty, but putting that aside,
And out of
he was he
justice,
was
he was.
he was tried in the criminal system and won. He was then retried in the civil system for damages, for money damages, by the Goldman family and by the who was the other family, uh, and lost, the Nicole Brown family,
Right.
and lost. So for civil reasons, one person suing another person for money damages, O.J. Simpson lost. In the
Right.
criminal arena, where the burden of proof is higher, O.J. Simpson won. So there are two systems, one involving people suing people, or people suing corporations, or corporations suing corporations, us suing each other, if you will, rather
Mm.
than the criminal system, a prosecutor pursuing criminal charges against us. Another good example is Alec Baldwin recently. Alec
Mm-hmm.
Baldwin has been charged criminally for what happened in on the set of Rust, but he was also sued civilly and had to pay damages to the family of the victim. So that's the difference between criminal and civil.
Okay. Okay. Could you tell me about your book, your children book, the Asher distracting with the kid book that you had written?
There's two children's
Two.
books.
Yes. The
One
one
is
that was social justice.
well, they're both involving they both involve social justice or safety. The first one is a social justice uh, kids book about a biracial child who was bullied on his first day of kindergarten.
Oh,
He goes to an all white school, and a little white kid decides that he's not the right color to be at the school where all the other students are white kids.
and integrating at school.
So the little boy is bullied in school, and the school, to its credit, rises to the occasion,
Okay.
punishes the bully, and teaches the lesson to the kids as gently as possible. This is a children's book. It's a story in rhyme. It involves tough themes, but I believe that kids should get these messages early in life. As we saw recently, a young kid who's age 14 years old committed suicide in New
Oh, wow.
Jersey because she was bullied by kids in high school. And I'd like to see kids get these messages much earlier in life so perhaps they don't become bullies when they get older.
Right.
And that's what the attempt of Happy Jack, Sad Jack, a bullying story,
Right.
is. It's a nice little book. It tells a good tale in rhyme. It doesn't hit you over the head with it.
So is those
Uh,
books, I'm sorry to interrupt
good
you.
good me-
So,
good message for kids, and something I think schools ought to consider a curriculum around.
okay, I was getting ready to ask that. Or those is the schools actually using that book as one of their implement in their lesson plan
That
for
would be
kids?
nice. That would be nice. It would be nice for me too.
Well, have you ever pitched it to the school or the
I, I,
superintendent of the school?
I'm working on it. I haven't officially pitched it, but I'm working on creating a program with a activities book and an oral presentation by Zoom
Okay.
uh, to go with the book. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, actually, that will be a very interesting book. Actually, for all grade level, and started at the early age in kindergarten. I'm a former teacher. That's why I asked. And when I was teaching kindergarten, those are good books for them to learn from because it start at an early age to understand bullying and to protect themselves.
Right, right.
So I mean, even I don't know if you know a teacher in your area, to converse with one of the teachers, or I know you have grandchildren,
I do. Nine grandchildren.
9, yes. And have you ever gave it to your grandchildren and say, "Oh, take this to school," because in kindergarten, you have show and tell,
Well,
and
yes,
that would be a
but
good book to take for show and
with,
tell day.
with limited success. Apparently, there's a protocol, and I'm learning that as well, that you have to go through to get your book uh, considered by a school administration. But I'm learning. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there is.
If you know any schools or school administrators that like this topic, if you'd like, I'll give you my favorite quote from the book, and you'll see what the way I write it, I think is very child friendly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. When if you want to implement in the curriculum, yeah, there is steps that you have to go to. However, what I'm saying, like for kindergarten, I mean, I've been in the school system for a long time, for a while. So I'm not in the school system anymore because I have retired from it. But my thing is, when I was teaching, I'm just going back when I was teaching in the
Hmm.
90s and early 2001 and 2. When I was teaching kindergarten, I mean, there's no curriculum when you have show and tell.
Right.
Long the book is like whatever the kids bring it into show and tell, you had that day. Okay, show and tell what you brought to school to show and tell. And the teacher, the kid come there with the book and say that, and the teacher will read it. So that's what I'm saying. And now if you want a curriculum based, yes, there's are channels that you have to do to go through to
Well,
be it.
these days, the superintendent gets involved. You've got to go to the school board. They've got to get approval for essentially assessing the content of a book.
Right.
I think you might know what's going on in Florida, for instance, where the
Oh,
governor is censoring, for lack of a better way to say it, or as as bluntly as I can put it, censoring all kinds of books, including
Yeah.
classics. So it's just not that easy to get
Yeah.
your book in front of students, even if it's a good message for the kids.
Yeah, we living in a different times, I tell you that much.
We sure do.
There's
We sure do.
ever since and back when I was teaching, again, it's like more show and tell more than curriculum. So again, I don't where may I ask where you Michigan, where you're located again?
I live in Michigan in the winter and in the in the summer months, and Florida in the winter months. That's why I know a little bit about
Okay.
what's going on in Florida.
Oh, okay. You reside in two places. How I know the
I do.
weather. I know the weather's really, really good out there.
Yep.
Warm.
Yep.
Uh, now I know your other book, like you said, Parents Danger. You want to teach the parents with the danger and distracted driving of children and safety.
Well, that book hasn't been released yet. It's called Asher's Distracted Lesson.
That's releasing in the spring.
It's about a little boy who gets involved in a minor car accident.
Mm,
And again, the concern I have as a grandparent or as a parent talking to young children is, am I scaring them? And I try to give them important messages without hitting them over the head with it. It's a gentle little book. It's not a serious auto accident, but they get into an accident with a kid, a teenager who's using his phone while
mm,
he's driving, isn't paying attention, and ends up rear-ending them. So there again, I tell the tale of how dangerous distracted driving is. Why would I present that to kids as young as kindergarten or first grade or second grade or third? Because we as parents have been giving kids phones probably as young as 9, 10 years old and not giving them lessons in the best use of those phones. And by the time they take driver's training at age 16, 17, or 18, they're addicted to their phones.
yeah.
Are they going to put them down while they're driving, or are they going to drive while they're using their phones? So by writing a little children's book that sends the message that distracted driving is dangerous, whether that's putting on makeup or eating McDonald's or talking on your phone, those things are dangerous. The purpose for driving a car is to drive a car to get from one place to another safely.
Yeah. I mean,
So the message is, and by the way, a lot of accidents cases that I handled in my law practice involved people that got into accidents because they weren't paying attention. So the intent here is to get out a message to children as young as possible that these things are dangerous. How about if you're sitting in your car seat and you're 5, 6 years old and mom picks up the phone? Maybe you've read Asher Distracted Lesson and you say, "Hey mom, that's dangerous. Put down the phone." Wouldn't that be a good thing?
yes, the little kids, they show now how to put parents in their place. They have no filters. They all innocent. So
Absolutely. So that would be a good thing.
yes. I mean, even with distracted drivers, you can teach your child, when you have the cell phone, but sometimes children don't listen. You can teach them, you can tell them, and then that when they out that door, they're in their own little world. They
No,
forget what mom and dad told them.
no question. But you can also set a better example
Yes,
than our
you
parents are
can,
setting.
and that is so true.
Yeah.
You can. I mean, it's just not what like with kids. Probably need to make one for adults too, because
Right.
a lot of distracted driving with adults. So like you did mention makeup. Not even with public transportation. I think I briefly about it.
no,
With the
no question.
craziness with over here in New Jersey with New Jersey transit drivers, bus drivers like killing pedestrians like is a trend.
No question.
You know. So, but that is a good book for a kid because that book is supposed to come out in spring.
It's
Because
going to
I know
come
you.
out probably spring or summer. I'm
Oh,
still I'm the illustrator who illustrated Happy Jack, Sad Jack. Her name is Melinda Faugust. She's terrific, and she's had some issues in her personal life, So the illustrations are not done yet.
Okay.
Uh, so as soon as she's finished illustrating it and it's ready to go, I would say spring or summer.
Okay. You also have a book that also coming out with a former judge, right? And
I
an attorney.
I wrote a new series,
Yes.
the first book of a new series. It's a whodunit, kind of like an Agatha Christie type book where there's a number of suspects in the murder of a college professor,
Professor.
and it's a new thing for me. The uh, principal character is a lady by the name of Rosalind Maxwell, and she's a former judge and retired lawyer who wrote a book about the justice system convicting citizens who are innocent or sentencing citizens to too long a sentence. And she's going around the country lecturing about this book, and she starts her lecture tour at a little college in Michigan where a friend of hers is the president of the university, and a college professor ends up getting killed on campus, and
Mm.
her best friend, the president, gets accused of the murder.
Mm.
She decides the police won't turn away from him as the principal suspect, so she decides to take it upon herself to try to prove him innocent. And
Okay.
the whodunit aspect of the case starts there. It's a fun
Oh,
little book. It's a fun little book.
I mean, I'm quite sure as a civil attorney, you saw it all. I'm quite sure you represent them all from bigotry to, because I know you were talking about what the white supremacists and you also
I've written,
go ahead.
like I said, 8 Zachary Blake adult legal thrillers. They, they're the topics. The first topic was the clergy abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. I handled a couple of cases like that. I didn't like the way the church behaved,
And you won.
and as a result, I wanted to get the message across that not only are the priests culpable in those cases, but the administration of the Catholic Church and the hierarchy of the Catholic Church were also quite culpable in transferring people back and forth without letting communities know that a predator has been transferred into their community.
Oh, wow.
Uh, so that was the first book. Then I wrote a book about loosely based on the 2016 presidential election and
Mhm.
a young Muslim woman who was accused of falsely accused of murder. I wrote a second uh, book along the same topic, a follow up to that book, um, and then I wrote a book called Betrayal in Black, which is about a traffic stop shooting
Shooting.
between a white
Mhm.
officer and a black citizen, a school shooting event called Betrayal High, where I demonstrate how the civil and criminal justice systems would handle a case involving a bullied kid who ends up uh, involved in a mass shooting at a high school. I wrote a book called Supreme Betrayal about the Me Too movement and sexual assault by a powerful judge against a law student.
Oh, wow.
I wrote a book about the border crisis called Betrayal at the Border. Um,
Now
and
another
the ripped from the headlines kind of stuff that on important issues in America.
Yeah, and it's greatly needed. Now some of the books that you have made mention to me, they sound like more on like a college level. So have you ever presented those books in a curriculum for like the professor in college in
I
a
have not.
criminal?
I have not. I have. I look at them as adult novels. You're right. I mean, they're fine for college
For
age
literacy.
kids. even teenagers, if you think about it.
Right.
The message of Betrayal High, for instance, and how a community and a high school administration deals with the legal aspects of a school shooting, I think are important issues even at the high school level.
Hmm.
Uh, but no, I have not pursued, uh, s- let's call it speaking engagements at high
The college.
schools or colleges. I guess I should. There's only there's only
Yes.
there's only so many hours in a day, and I have a family and a life, and
Yeah.
uh,
You like sports, don't you?
but I
Your
like
time.
to do shows like yours to get the word out.
But I had took up a class when I went to Jersey City University, literacy class, adult literacy, and very good course. And we had to write a book, and some of the stuff that you may mention of it will be good fit
Right, right.
for a literacy class for children class. When when you're in college. So that's how come I said it would be a good book to present on a college level to a lecture class for people who's actually also looking to get into law students, a
Well,
criminal
a-
law student.
absolutely. They would certainly be good books to introduce
Hmm.
the civil and criminal justice systems to
Hmm.
people who are not that familiar with them.
Because
Uh,
it's
for
because
those of you, for those of your listeners who want to or who are interested in my stuff and want to look into it for free, they can go to my website at markmbello.com. There's a little novella I wrote about the Holocaust, and they can download that for free
you hear that, audience,
by
for
simply
free.
leaving an email.
You hear that, audience? Download, go support him. Download the book for free. The topics that he written, and like he said, they realistic, real life topics. It's not fictional. It's
Well,
book.
this one is actually based on a true story
Okay.
that happened not to a Jewish person, to a Christian person, but I manipulated the story a little bit and made it a fictional account of Zachary Blake's grandfather escaping from Auschwitz, from the concentration camp.
Oh,
It's a fun little book. Um, uh, it's only 40 pages. It's free on my website, or you can get it free on Amazon as well.
so what inspired you to become a author, a writer after
The
you
case I told
retired from law?
the case I told you about. The In my 30s, I handled a case of two kids that got abused by a priest.
Okay.
It was a difficult case. The church ran my partner and I around. We had to travel to 7 states to find witnesses that they were hiding. Uh, they did. They covered up prior incidents. They sealed files.
Mm,
Got judges to help them prevent disclosure of prior events.
mm,
And at the end of the day, we did a good job for our clients. And I always said to myself, I'll write a book about this someday. I didn't
hmm.
think it was going to take 35 years, but about about 35 years later, I wrote Betrayal of Faith, my first novel.
Well, that's what I'm dealing with a lot with betrayal of faith. They conceal. I don't know if you did research about my story. They conceal my son case. They meaning the prosecutor, New Jersey Transit, had actually concealed my son case when I went to go do research at the court, and they said, "Oh, they don't have it." I'm like, "What do you don't? What do you mean you don't have it in the courts?" And I knew they have it because it was my child.
Right.
Like I shared with you before, there's a lot of innocent lives are being killed by New Jersey Transit bus drivers and train engineers, and nothing is being done about it. But so, I mean, and not only that, they redacted the driver who killed my son, his records. So there's a lot of injustice in the justice system.
Well, not only that, but you'd be surprised at the power that some um, I don't want to use the word power again, but powerful people can have an ability to manipulate the system and
Yes.
make and mold uh, the civil justice or criminal justice system to their liking. Uh, the good old boys network is alive and well. Let's put it that way.
Right.
The old phrase, "It's not what you know, it's who you know."
Yeah, and that's so
That that
true.
that happens a lot in the justice system.
Yeah, they make things go away, make case move off. I mean, I know articles written on my son, very impertinent stuff with evidence attached to it. All those articles is moved off the line. Well, whatever you put online never permanently moved because it's in cyber. You can find it if those who's a
Right.
good tech person. You can always still find the link in the articles.
I
With
I
that.
I'd love to say I'm surprised that that happened to you, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, that's what happened, and I'm quite sure this is how come I create the platform for people, such as yourself and myself, to actually highlight this and expose these type of things that happen. Because some people who not going through it, they think, oh, nothing like this ever happened. No, not in these states. No, so it happens in all states because it's not exposed. And the thing is, international news, world news don't pick these things up. However, you have people dealing with this real life trauma, what's going on in each state. And they
I'm not a big conservative conspiracy theorist. Um, but if people don't believe what you're saying, if they think this is one of those conspiracy theories, I assure you that it's not.
yeah.
These things happen in the court system all the time, and
Hmm.
powerful people who have friends in the system
Hmm.
can get things done, whether they're attorneys or judges or
Hmm.
just important people in a community can get things done that the ordinary citizen cannot.
Hmm.
Now it takes a lawyer like Zachary Blake, my fictional lawyer, or Mark Bello, or somebody to take on the system. Uh, there's no question that a single lawyer can take on the system and win. I'm not suggesting that that can't happen, but I am suggesting, for instance, I just told the story about the Catholic Church and what I went through to get justice for my client. I literally had to go to court uh, over 100 times to get records that should have been readily, excuse me, available to me. Um, but I had to open up sealed files. I had to make uh, people tell the truth at depositions. I had to ask questions. I had to hire investigators to find people. It was very difficult. And the Catholic Church has a lot of friends in high places. And you have to fight tooth and nail in these cases, especially as early as mine was. My case happened in the 70s, and the case was pursued in litigation in the 80s, way before the scandal became a well-known phenomenon. And it was
So,
very, very difficult to get the truth um, in the situation we were in. So
so,
I know exactly what you're saying, and I understand it completely.
so there was a host of clergy who had sexually violated
Correct.
children.
Correct. And not just that, but their immediate superiors and the superiors of those people, and even the highest levels of the church were covering the crimes up and moving people out of town into other towns so they could do it all over again.
So they and they
On the theory that there was a shortage of priests in the church and they needed these people. And
and these supposed to be the men of
my
the cloth.
attitude is, why do you need a predator? I would rather have a layperson
Right.
preaching
So
the
that
gospel, not some predator. So
yeah,
I never bought that excuse, but that was the excuse.
and they supposed to be the man of the cloth, supposed to be high of God, being a guy representation.
A messenger.
Right.
Can you think of any higher authority to a child?
Exactly. You supposed to be a God fearing man or
Exactly.
woman, and you sitting here
It
having like sexual
it was
encounters with these
it was
youth.
despicable. It was despicable, and it got even more despicable the higher you went up.
That's you know what? Even with like you said with the clergy, I think that's what a lot of positions. Whether my situation, the higher you up with dealing with, even with politicians, I'm quite sure you have a lot of political people who was involved of covering it up because again, like you said, with these churches, they well connected.
I can't say how far the cover up went. I can say that there was a cover up, and
Okay,
can say that they made it extremely difficult for us to get the truth.
always, always.
There was a prior incident in Michigan at the place the priest that we sued um, was before the place where our incident took place, and those people filed a lawsuit. The church settled the lawsuit for a small amount of money. That was a tragedy, also, and then got the court to cover up the file. The family got shipped off to Florida, and I had to go
Wow.
not only find that a prior incident happened, but once I found that I had to go find them. I actually got on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
This is before cell phones and the internet, and 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 you know locating people online. I had to uh, track them down, literally, traveling from Michigan to Florida, uh, essentially going to libraries, looking up names, and finding them the hard way
Wow.
because the hierarchy lied to me.
Well, you was a
So,
good attorney.
well, I did a good job in that case. Let's put it that way.
Okay. 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 You did a good job in that
I
case.
I don't I'm not somebody that likes to pat myself on the back, but I did a nice job in the case, and I always promised myself I'd write a book about it. And at age 65, I sat down and wrote Betrayal of Faith, and that's what started my author career.
8 books to be exact. Now, you have a cooking book as well, right?
I
You
I
you,
wrote
you
a
got it all, huh? Tell me about the
I wrote a
cooking book.
cookbook. It's got the Jewish family recipes in it.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically the recipes of my own family, going back 150 years to Russia and Poland, where my family comes from.
Oh, okay.
And I did a little something funny. I changed my family to Zachary Blake's family, the character in my novels, and I tell a bunch of stories from the old country uh, that are cute and funny, and I make them his family rather than mine. I won't tell you which stories are true and which stories are not, but but there are, aside from the great recipes that I've grown up on uh, and eaten all my life, there are also some funny and charming stories in the cookbook as well. It's a lot of fun.
Oh. Okay, we're gonna wind it down. I mean, anything else you like to tell the viewers
I'm
about?
sorry.
I said we coming to the closure with the show. I say
Okay.
any important things you want to also let the viewers know
I
about you
the new book is coming out
and contact information.
in March, pre order in May. wide. The books can be found at markmbello.com or on Amazon. I think the issues that the books talk about are important, and they're educational as well as entertaining. And I hope you'll give them a try.
So
As to me, I'm just a simple little guy that is semi-retired and enjoying life.
oh, so when you say semi-retired, you still practicing law?
I don't practice law anymore. I do. I
You say
I'm
semi.
I'm retired. My daughter has taken over my business, and
Oh,
I write my books, and I'm enjoying myself.
so what's your next project you got coming up?
The next podcast, I don't think I have one scheduled. I just we just did a podcast.
You guys
Um,
check out his podcast. Go check out his podcast.
we did a podcast recently about people getting hurt at sporting events,
Oh, okay.
and how you can avoid some of the issues involving um, what we call immunity. I don't know if you know what I mean when I say
Mhm.
immunity, but
Mhm.
the system uh, creates by statute certain protections where people can't sue people, and
Like this.
I've made it a passion of mine, a career of mine, to expose those things and try to create a system where people have an absolute right to sue those who harm them.
Whomever. Yeah,
Uh,
right.
you'd be surprised to know that that's not always true.
Like the prosecutor, there's immunity with them.
Not just prosecuting, not just criminal, but civil as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's. Now, do you are you on any social media? Twitter,
I'm on
Instagram?
Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram.
Can you leave them your handle?
If you Google Mark M. Bello or Mark Bello, Bello, you'll find me or my books or my advocacy. I write a lot of articles about the things we just talked about, and I
Mhm.
have a newsletter, which again, if you sign up at my website, you can subscribe to the newsletter. Uh, I do a lot of writing about the things that we just talked about.
Now I know a little quick thing. I know you was talking about the thing that happened in California where he passed away, but the guy who was pulled over and the police officer, Rodney King.
Tyree Nichols or
No,
something
it was
different.
Rodney back in the was that in the 80s or
Oh,
90s? Rodney,
Rodney King.
right?
Well,
Hmm.
I just
Was you on
the
that case?
what I talk about is how it seems when we look at our society that we've come a long way with regard to racial equality and people being treated fairly regardless of race, creed, or color. Yet you look at Tyree Nichols and you look at Rodney King happening 35, 40 years ago, and you realize that maybe we haven't come so far at all.
Not at all. There's a
So
lot of racial injustice still going on.
we still have a long way to go for everybody to be treated fairly and
Exactly.
everybody to achieve justice in America.
Because we all have one race, and that's human race. There should not be a division amongst ethnicity, color of your skin.
Well,
I
that's
think
something,
that's
I mentioned it earlier. I was about to read for you a little uh, portion of my children's book, and I'd like to do it now if you don't mind. It's
oh,
very short.
okay,
It's
we can
very
read it because I'm trying to close it, but
I know.
we gonna oh,
Very
okay,
short. It's a good way. It's a good way to end the show.
okay, go ahead.
Here it goes. People are different in color, shape, size, ears, noses, mouth, and different shaped eyes. Different races and genders, more too. We're Christian or Buddhist or Muslim or Jew. But there's one thing in common we all have in this place. We're all valued members of this human race.
Oh, all right, I'm gonna give you a clap on that. I like that. I write poetry. Will
That,
you give
that's from
that
that's
me a
from
line?
Happy Jack. That's from
I
Happy Jack.
like that. Well, thank you for watching the Noneillah Talk Show on Central and CNJN Network. Bye.
Thank you.
I mean, we can still talk for Facebook. Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
You
So, I
faded
mean,
away.
but if you want to still talk, because we on Facebook now.
Oh, we can do that if you want.
So if you want to still get more out, I just had to do that the 30 minute for the television purpose. But with Facebook, if you want to still share, I mean, we're still on for Facebook. So if you still want to share stuff that you,
I'm happy to chat with you if you'd like. I got another hour or so. Um, we've pretty much talked about the things that I've been doing in my life. If you'd like to talk more about your situation, I'm happy to discuss that with you. Whatever you want to do.
Mark, you don't want me to start crying
I'm
up in
yours. I'm yours.
here. You don't want me to start crying up in here. It's very emotional what I'm still going through. I mean, it's like where to start. From what I'm experienced, went through tons of lawyers who was not helpful whatsoever. It was all about money, 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 but not the justice of this man who blatantly ended my son's life.
Tell me what happened.
I'm gonna need some tissue for this.
Maybe I will
Uh,
too.
huh?
I will too.
Oh well. My son, which was my only child, you don't even guess asking me to go into it. Um, he was on his way going to work, and I'm just trying to take breath because again, it's emotional. When it's your child, and he flagged the driver to stop. The driver kept going
Stop. Why? I mean, what was it? His bus
because
stop?
yes, he was at the bus stop. So I had a friend who's a former friend who's a judge.
Okay.
And when it initially happened, he said to me, Naomi, go and talk to the people around the area because they're going to tell you exactly what happened. They're not going to tell too many people they're not going to tell the police or everything, because some people are nervous with the police and so forth and so on.
Was the driver driving erratically, or was he drunk, or what was the story?
Well, when I found out the whole entire truth, the driver, I did research because I do a lot of research online, and I find other people who made comments about the incident what happened to my son. And one person that I had read a complaint is New Jersey Transit Complaint and Coach USA complaint site. So one person, I just Googled my Sam name up and it just popped up. And one person was sharing his story. And he was shocked that he saw my son picture in a newspaper. He said he remembered the day that my son was exiting off the public transportation. Sometimes it's hard for me to say the US, exiting the public transportation. And my son had looked back. This is the thing that the person wrote on the complaint site, which is now no longer on there anymore. That happened to disappear because I went to look for it. It's no longer on site. So they removed that
Right.
as well. Luckily, the lawyer had printed all that out. So he said my son was looking back, trying to check, make sure he had everything. And the driver was like very rude towards my son, told me hurry up and get off. And my son like, hold up, I'm looking for something. This is what I read. And so the driver was still being rude towards my son. And one of the pastor had intervened, like, why are you rushing this young man? He got to make sure he have everything because he was going to work. And the driver told the person to shut up. It's all online because what I did, I scanned the information and I plastered it all on
Okay.
online. So this is not alleged. This is all online.
So what
And I was
happened?
taken back when I read this. And so I can't remember verbatim what he said. The person who was on the bus, he was telling the driver said, "Oh, mind your business." And the driver like, you don't know me. I can do something to you, and nothing ever going to happen to me. I can end your life or do something to you, something along that effect, and nothing's going to happen to you. This is what he was telling my son and everything. And next thing you know, my son is not here anymore.
But what happened?
So back to what happened. So my son was flagging. He was at the stop with another gentleman, according to the witness, what I've read. And my son flagged the driver down. The driver did not stop. So what my son did, because he was already at the stop based on the witnesses, he, jogged alone. He didn't run. They were saying he's chasing. You can't chase anything if you're already at the stop. You can rush up to it, but you can't
Okay.
chase it or you can't run after it. So what my son was already there. So what he did, he run along a line. He was on the curb because the guy flew by,
Right.
and he made it to the front door and he banged. And according to what I read, it said the driver had accelerated before my son made it to the front door, accelerated and aimed it. And
So
not
you,
my son in the street and ran him over. Not once, but twice. And then dragged him.
I'm so sorry. And are you saying that you tried to pursue that both civilly and criminally?
Yes. The
And
civil,
and you were yeah, I presume you were successful at the civil level, but not at the criminal?
well, when I found out more evidence, because I had to go through three different lawyers because they start lying. And I was having these dreams of my son showing me things. People don't believe that these dreams are real. My son actually in my dream was telling me things, showing me things, and I would tell the lawyer, and he could do follow research based on my dream and come and find out is into reality. So yeah. So as terms of the criminal part, the attorneys, when I said nothing, they was trying to throw the whole case file away. I went to Al Sharpton organization and I spoke to someone at Al Sharpton organization. They asked me, "Do you have your son whole case file?" I said, "Yes." Andrew gave me the whole case file. He's like, "I bet you didn't." So he said, "This is what I need you to do. I need you to write a letter, not ask, but demand for your son's case file." So I said, "Okay, I did that." And so they took a long time giving it to me, like 3 months or 4 months to give it to me. So I said, "If you don't give me this file, I have a right to have it because you're not representing my son
Right.
anymore. I would
Right.
take you to court." Because I find something on law online with New Jersey statute when a attorney not representing you anymore, they have to hand over your case file,
Correct.
which I didn't know. But I've learned. And then after that, when I put that and I told them I was going to take them to court if I don't get that file,
They
all
can
of a
they they
sudden,
they can charge you an administrative fee or a copying fee, but you're entitled to your court file.
right. So
Well, not
they
just your court file, your office file. Let's put it that way.
right. Because the other attorney that I went through like few attorney. I had a criminal attorney when it first happened with the civil attorney, Saludo. He was the advocate for me to make sure my son case was actually prosecuting the driver who deliberately, when I
Well,
say
that's my question. When you say you had a criminal attorney,
I wound up
y- your
finding,
your
go ahead.
criminal attorney should have been the prosecutor.
And
Did
that's what,
did did you
go ahead.
bring the case to the prosecutor?
They went to the prosecutor. The prosecutor had closed my son's case file.
They
So we did
refused to prosecute. Okay.
Yeah, and we did a protest because
Okay.
they was closing it. We did a protest, and all of a sudden they reopened it because I guess with the pressure. So they opened it like, "Oh well, we're going to take it to the grand jury." So I was conversing with the prosecutor, the attorney, and the assistant prosecutor. After what happened, they closed my son's case. Come and find out, the criminal attorney never submitted some of the stuff to the prosecutor. This is the initial one where it first happened.
Criminal attorney for who?
From the one that was hired by the civil attorney when it initially happened in 2012, the civil attorney had Brad had hired Joe Saluti
But did
to
somebody bring criminal charges against your son?
no criminal charges against the driver.
Okay. So that
because
would not be a criminal attorney for you. That would be a criminal attorney who represented his interests.
what they did with the again, Brad had hired Saluti.
Where you're losing me is that I don't understand why you would need a criminal attorney.
This is what the lawyer had did. I don't, I never had a child.
All right, all right,
Life was taken, so
okay,
he hired Brad had hired the criminal attorney for me, and according to I was just looking at his the paper that I signed, that he was supposed to be an advocate to make
okay.
sure that the prosecutor would handle the case properly to
Was
make
held
sure
accountable. Okay,
say it again,
was held accountable.
right, for ending my son's life.
The problem is, and I don't want to sugarcoat or make light of what happened to your son or you, but I do want you to understand the system a little bit. Putting aside these political or power differences that we talked about during the podcast, um, you still have to prove that the driver is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right,
And if a prosecutor doesn't believe that he can prove that the driver is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, then he won't bring charges.
right.
That's why, as we talked about with OJ, that's why you can bring a civil case and win money damages,
No, it get good.
but you can't always win the criminal trial.
Yeah, this
So
is.
my guess in your case is your son did something or was accused of doing something, whether it's rush the bus or grab the door handle
Hmm.
or put himself in danger in some way or other, at least from an accusation standpoint.
Hmm.
Um, Somebody concluded that because of actions that your son took, they could not pursue successfully the case against the driver. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong.
Right.
I'm just guessing that that's probably what happened as to why they didn't pursue the criminal case. What happened in the civil case? Did you
What
settle
what
it?
what hold on, let me get back to the criminal.
Okay,
What
go.
happened? What happened was this is like the beginning, so all the information did not come out
Right.
because we wound up going to the prosecutor and report, and this is on YouTube, with the news station was there. So the thing is, the criminal attorney never presented the information that he had to the prosecutor because I spoke to the prosecutor and she said she never received it for the grand jury, so they closed it. So if
Okay.
you don't have evidence to provide to the grand jury, so what? You don't have evidence to back up the claim
Did he
that this
did
driver
he did
deliberately did
he
that.
did he get prosecuted and was found not guilty?
What happened was I fired both of the attorney. Come and find out the attorney wound up getting disbarred.
Was he ever prosecuted?
No,
If he was never
no.
prosecuted and that evidence is still available, then you can still
Yeah, they
prosecute
told
him.
me. I
Okay.
what I did now, that's I'm taking you all the way back for the first initial what happened.
Okay.
So I hired another attorney who got a whole load of information
Okay.
that shows that the driver was held accountable
Okay.
for my son's demise. And with the deposition, one attorney he took the when they first, I don't know what you call it, when the prosecutor initially interviewed them,
Right.
and he interviewed the driver. The driver gets up and demonstrated and say how he saw my son. The attorney from Coach USA/New Jersey Transit said, "Remember, you didn't see anything." I have the video. I can't make this up. I had put it on YouTube. He said, "Remember,
Okay.
you didn't see anything." So the prosecutor in turn and said he already said, "Okay, claim it as an accident." But in New Jersey, it's not considered accident. It's considered a crash. Accident you could correct,
Right.
but crash you can't. When somebody in their life, you in somebody's life, you cannot make correction. The person's gone. We only have one life. We're gone. That's just that. So what
Right.
they did, they changed the term into crash. So anyway, when I said all this dirt, when I read the file, when I finally got my son's file, when I said a lot of corruption and cover up, I just started crying. It's like, how can you allow this guy to still go? So I had called some people up, and they like, no, you know what, you still can press. I spoke to some police officer. They like, you can still press charges. There's no statute of
Right.
limitation on criminal, right?
Right.
Right. As long as you have all the information from discovery, like the burden of
As
proof.
long as long as double jeopardy hasn't happened, as long as he
Right.
has not been
Filed
tried
for the same
and
thing.
found not guilty. Right.
Mm-hmm. So I have learned all that,
Good.
and so I'm like, okay.
I'm
They're
I'm
like,
glad I'm glad you're learning without me.
one thing I could do, I can read,
Okay.
and I do a lot of research.
So
And actually,
where do you stand now?
where I stand, well, right now where I stand, well, I don't want to go into. I tell you privately because
Okay. Okay.
I don't want to go into certain
Uh,
things.
did you pursue the civil case?
Yes,
And
I share
did
with
the
you.
civil case resolve?
I share with all that with you off camera.
All right. Very good.
Yeah, because again,
Send
being
me
on.
the links to the YouTube video, would you?
Okay.
Okay.
And because again, I know New Jersey Transit, they be watching all my videos
Okay.
and they see that I'm exposing them.
All right.
And so
Well,
that's how come all the other information.
good for you. There's power in being a persistent citizen.
And
One thing I would suggest to your listeners is do what you're doing. Don't let powerful people shut you down and prevent you from getting to the truth.
oh, they had me
That's
sign.
not it's not easy, but it is doable.
They forced me to. They try and get me to sign a gag order.
Right?
When I say it's ruthless with transit and their attorney, it is. It was a one case that one of the attorneys of New Jersey had went after New Jersey Transit for racial discrimination.
Right?
That's online as well.
Okay.
And transit lawyers was trying to force a gag order on her. She said, "You cannot do that. That's not constitutional. I mean, I have a right to my speech,
Right.
and it's against the law trying to gag the victim."
You have a right to speech as long as it's true.
Right. And so
If you disparage somebody and you
that's a
lie
different.
about that person, that's different.
Yeah.
As long as you're telling the truth, you're okay.
Exactly. That's when when you're lying and there's no truth to it. Yes, that's when you get in
All right.
trouble.
Okay.
However, when you have factual, substantial burden of proof, like I had with the video,
Right.
it's not me in the video talking with the corruption, it's you. So how
Is
can
this
you get
it, is the civil case still going, or did it get resolved?
again, I talked to you offline about
Oh,
that.
okay. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
that's what's is crazy. I mean, and I wrote to the politician, I wrote to the governor trying to get it passed a law. I wrote to the US State Senator Bob Menendez and the Governor Phil Murphy. Even I wrote to Chris Christie about all this corruption and cover up and passed a law to hold these drivers accountable.
Right.
However, they didn't. But what they did do, they turned around and passed a law to protect the drivers. So whomever doing harmful or causing harm towards the driver, they protect them. These drivers that Transit and Coach USA have operating these vehicles, they have when I said criminal records, it was a case just recently happened. One of the New Jersey Transit driver pulled out a gun and shot at teenagers. They're hiring people with, I mean, you can hire people with criminal records, but when you have somebody who shows that they have no interpersonal skills, how are you going to hire them to operate a vehicle? And some of these drivers, and they threaten, like what happened to my son, and this is not alleged because this is on New Jersey Transit complaint site. A lot of passengers and pedestrians make complaints about these drivers threatening them. And some of them carry it out, and some of them just like threats, and they're protected them, meaning when I say they, the politician like the governor are protecting these drivers. So whomever do
with immunity or limits on damages or what?
what would they have? They passed a law that if anybody harass, assault the driver, they go. The correct term they had a free ride to jail and a $15,000 bail. That's what exactly what it said.
So
You know
the driver can allege that somebody harassed him and be believed. Is that what you're saying?
exactly,
Got it. Okay.
exactly, and that person, that innocent person, going to jail because what they're saying. Now, these drivers in their lives, I had people reach out to me and share their story because with the articles that I had about my son and the ones that is missing offline, they saw the story and they share with me what happened to their loved one, the
Okay.
same situation. And one,
He has multiple incidents.
right,
Got it.
multiple. And not only that, a woman shared with me where her sister was downtown North just crossing. The driver was speeding. The woman had the right of way. The
Just
driver ran her leg over, and both her legs had to get
just so you know, a prior incident or two might not be admissible, but
amputated.
but a pattern of behavior where somebody does it all the time,
Hmm.
that makes it more likely that he did it this time.
Right.
That is admissible. So just something for you to think about.
Yes, and
Okay.
with the deposition that I have, it shows after he did what he did to my child, he had another. He had breaking and entry. He
Okay.
had all these ruthless behavior.
Well, it has to be consistent. Let's suppose he breaks into houses for a living. That's not necessarily relevant.
Hmm.
It might surprise you. I'm not saying yes or no, but his life as a thief is not necessarily relevant to his being violent
Hmm.
or taking off with a bus while somebody's holding on to the door. The two don't go hand in hand. But if he's done if he's had a lot of situations where he's harmed on a bus other people, those things are relevant. So
He did
it just
actually,
depends.
actually in the deposition, more stuff came out in the deposition
I'm sure. I'm
that
sure.
he did that to another person who was getting off. Because I was reading the deposition, I was taken back. This
Interesting.
particular person was getting off the public transportation. He pulled off, and the
Okay.
guy fell. Never reported.
One time.
Never reported.
One other similar incident or multiple or many times.
Is multiple other.
If there's a lot,
um,
it's more
wrap up
it's
broadcast and you can keep talking
Oh, I did wrap it up.
offline.
I wrapped it up.
Yeah, but we're still going on Facebook.
Oh, oh,
I'm
okay.
You want me to, I'm gonna stop it. And then you can talk private because you
Oh,
said you
okay.
wanted to talk offline.
Right. That was the director.
I kind of heard him.
You know, you heard him.
I